Welcome, everybody, to my first crack at this. I'm very lucky to have with me today David Morrow, 15-year Canadian Armed Forces veteran of the infantry with a Afghanistan tour going back to 2010. Is that right, Dave?
That's right, man.
Thank you very much for being here. Dave's got a really, really cool story to tell that he told me a few months ago that for somehow had slipped my radar, and I was not aware of. I was aware of the grand scheme of what had happened, but not at all sort of the minutia and the details. So if you've got anything to add, if there's anything I missed, Dave, on the intro, let me know. But otherwise, please inform the audience what you were doing in January 2021, which marks the 5-year anniversary this month, while the rest of us were figuring out what days the grocery stores were open and what days we were allowed in.
Yeah.
You were taking it upon yourself to do something really unique and special. And I'd love to hear you tell the story again, please.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny that you were so like captured by the story, because when I was on the phone, you were silent for most of the time. I'm like, oh, this is boring. I'm just boring him. But in reality, you're just like, holy shit, what are you talking about? And this was just my life 5 years ago. So I appreciate you having me on your show, man. I like seeing more Canadians, but also Canadian veterans get into the broadcast space, because I think it's very much needed in our troubled times these days. Our stories need to be told. So thanks for having me on. So to fill you guys in, yeah, January 2021. So I'm recently separated from my last job. I left my teaching career, and I have a new daughter. So that's kind of like the framework of where I'm at. I have a brand new company. I just started my podcast. I just started coaching veterans. So I have this tiny little office. And for about 10 years, so since I came home from Afghanistan in 2011, I've been trying to help my interpreter, Abdul, get him and his family to Canada. And I just assumed, like innocent old me, there must be some sort of program for interpreters that worked basically the entire war for our country, wearing our uniform with our flag. And so I started poking around, and it's a few years and I don't find anything. I'm talking to lawyers. They're like, sure, we'll find something for you for like $1,000 consultation fee. I'm a teacher at the time. I got no money. I'm like, I can't afford that. He was tenacious. He's always like, Mr. Dave, how are things? Any news? I really got to get out of here, man. Like, it's getting bad. I'm like, dude, I don't know, man. I'm just I was a sergeant. I left as a lieutenant. I don't know anybody. But he kept at me. And then he sent me this email. It's like, hey, I found this group on Facebook, Afghan Canadian interpreters. Now, he's sent me stuff in the past, and there's so many scams out of India and Pakistan. It's crazy how even the government, Canadian government, even like some of them come out of Canada. Like, it's just insane how much they rob these Afghans are trying to get out because they're desperate. So I'm kind of skeptical. I check it out and I realize, it's run by a Canadian. Her profile's there. So I reach out, and she's just a sweet lady who literally works for the federal government. And so he struck up a conversation. She has like 100 people kind of watching her page, and they're all Afghans. I go, hey, are you legit? Like, what's going on here? She's like, oh yeah, I help about like 1 or 2 families a year trying to get their paperwork done and get them out of Afghanistan. I'm like, wow, that's really noble. Do you have any help? She's like, no, just me. So we started going back and forth, and I write Abdul. I'm like, dude, I think this is legit, man, but it doesn't mean anything. He's like, I know, but times are getting tough, man. They're starting to really put the pressure on. The night letters, the threats against his family. On top of that, he's a Hazara minority, so it's bad. And we know the date's coming, right? It was established that we were going to be pulling out, or like the Americans made it clear, we're pulling out, right? 2021. Okay, cool. So again, I just assume Canada must have some sort of plan. I'm poking around, don't hear anything. So I get involved in these meetings, because now it's me and Wendy. We're just 2 civilians doing what we think is right. And she invites me on this call. It's a Zoom call. And she's like, oh, you should come. You'd be part of like our contingent. I'm like, okay. I'm assuming global affairs is going to be there. I'm assuming, and I'm I'm like, okay, I'm just going to take a back seat and see what's going on. And then I realize I'm on a Zoom call with like the highest level NGOs in the United States and the planet, generals from Germany, people that I'm like, what like way out of my league in terms of security classifications, experience, and everybody has their say from each country, essentially each NATO member. And then they come around to Canada and it's just Wendy and me. We have no official titles. We're not representing the government. We're just volunteers. And I realized this is a way bigger than I thought it was. And we don't have a response. They obviously must have reached out to somebody in Canada and they can only find us. So I take a screenshot. I send it to my buddy from my unit, who's a reporter at Global. And he goes, wait, what? I'm like, yeah. And he's been to Afghanistan a bunch of times to report on it. So he's like, Dave, can we get on the phone? And then that just started snowballing. I got on Global News, did a spot there. Then CBC picked it up. And then it just started snowballing and snowballing and snowballing. Before you know it, I'm got phone calls like coming out my ass, emails, you name it. So that's kind of how everything got started.
That's I'm still the reason I was silent on the phone call is the same reason I'm silent now. I want to drink this all in, and it really, people seriously kind of need to remember, what was 2021 like? You know what I mean? It was, Biden had just kind of been sworn in. January 6th, I guess, had happened maybe a few weeks prior. There was nobody that I knew was focused on anything like this at all. Everyone was kind of worried about saving themselves, and like this was kind of the height of still COVID hysteria in Ottawa, where I was at ground zero. So hearing you tell this story of where you were and where your headspace was at, kind of in this sort of 5-year anniversary that we're in now, is just amazing. Because I was in the military full time, you know what I mean, working in, I guess I was in force development still, trying to, and in procurement or whatever. Like, I had zero idea that the US was spooling this exit strategy up outside of the very basic level 35,000 foot view information that was released in kind of legacy media or through military release channel type thing, Can4Gens and stuff like that. But you were talking to people, you were sitting in meetings with generals and colonels and all these high ranking media folks that were just pulling this stuff up. And it's really cool to hear. So is it, in terms of time frame, are we still in January when this is going on, or is it now moved into, is it in February? Like, where are we?
Yeah, the meeting, I believe, was in March.
Okay, so it's fast forwarded a couple months by now.
Fast forward a couple months, because I believe we only really connected in January, me and Wendy, that is, in January, beginning February, I believe was around that time frame. And it was just a bunch of emails going back and forth, a few messenger conversations, nothing too crazy. I put them in touch, Abdul and who was my interpreter, and Wendy. And yeah, you mentioned like the American response. Well, it wasn't an official American response. It was the NGOs. So I don't know how much they had in terms of connection. Were they at arm's length? Likely they were from the American government, but the American government's response was a disaster. They clearly didn't have a clear plan. So because everybody was waiting for the plan, they didn't know what exactly to do. So it was kind of every man for himself. And I got that sense when I was on the call. Nobody really knew what the plan was. So every NGO was kind of doing their best to get their people out, whatever that meant. And there was very few official government officials. So that being said, Canada had like the worst presence with just me and Wendy being there as just volunteers. Everybody else was officially part of some larger organization that's well funded, that was doing their best to get their people out without any real high level strategy, until we start moving closer to the projected pullout date, which was supposed to be September 11th, right? And I'm looking at intel reports, like open source stuff. I'm talking to Afghans on the ground. They're saying there's no way that we're holding out to September. I'm talking to buddies of mine at CanSoft, and they've got like a betting pool. They're like, when's Kabul going to fall? And they're like, dude, this thing is done by July. And all everybody's like, fuck no, bro, you don't know what you're talking about. It's going to be September. It's like, no, man. Like, they're just going to fold. It's going to be over, and it's going to happen within days. And lo and behold, that's what happened. So if we backpedal a little bit, the tempo starts to pick up a little bit. This isn't my main focus. I'm trying to grow a small online coaching company and podcast. That's my main focus. I was even actually another wrinkle. I was literally working for the federal government at this time too. I was working at the CAF transition group. I was in charge of creating the training package for guys and gals leaving the CAF.
As a civilian?
Yeah, correct. I've been out for a few years at this point.
And by training, you're referring to sort of fitness training?
No. I was the lead instructional design guy for building this. I don't even know if it got released, man. That's a whole other podcast. We were building a PowerPoint presentation. We're building a PowerPoint presentation. Like, I don't want to make it sound like this sexy. Like, it was just a huge slide deck, of which we outsourced to a consulting company, of course. And I was just there to kind of guide the curriculum, because I was a reservist. I was, 15 years in, Afghan vet, and I have a master's in education. So I kind of like was able to guide where they were going with things. That being said, this started taking up, by this, I mean, the withdrawal and trying to help our Afghan allies get out of the country. This started taking up way more time than I expected. And I had like an ops board kind of behind me. And so I do podcasts like this. And then I'd had to take down my whole like ops planning board and like throw it off to the side and then have my like regular background, because it was crazy. I had maps of like where guys were. I was essentially coordinating this big effort, because as soon as I got on CBC, The Current, and I had a conversation with Abdul in Afghanistan, people then realized, oh shit. And this was the summer. This is like June, I think, of 2021, or maybe May 2021. They're like, oh my God, this is real. I'm like, yeah. So I'm getting emails from former, high-ranking officials in the CanSoft world. Hey, Dave, what do you need? I'm like, I don't know. I don't even know who you are. And then I get emails from interpreters that worked with some of the task force generals. That lit a bunch of guys up. I go, well, I'm pretty sure this interpreter, because his English is flawless, he sent me all of his paperwork. I don't know. I'm not an ink guy, but this looks legit. If his name corroborates like with who he's saying he is, within like 15 minutes, I now have generals like giving me a call. We're doing Skype calls. I'm literally coaching my kid's soccer team, man. I'm trying to coach soccer. And then I've got like every task force commander, NGOs. I've got freaking, was it not JTAC, but what's the name of the organization that kind of coordinates everything here in Canada? J something. I've been out for such a long time.
Is it JTIC?
Not JTIC. Either way, I've got.
It'll come to me. I know what you're talking about. I used to see their header on briefings.
It's like Joint Task Force Command or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, man, I don't have security clearance anymore. But how am I running this meeting? I'm like, hello, General so-and-so, hello, Joe, welcome to the meeting. Okay, yeah, today we're working. And they're like, literally, they're asking, what's the plan? And it's me and Wendy. And then we put this team together. I said, it was like, yeah, remember that show, A Guy, a Girl, and the Pizza Place back in the day? It was in the 90s. My buddies asked, like, dude, who's in charge of this like Afghan pullout mission? And I'm like, me, Wendy, and a guy named Russ. And like, he was like our data guy. He was like making spreadsheets, and he was great. Like, that's what he did on the civilian side, and he was a reservist too.
Combine it with your ops board that looks like Pepe Sylvia in the back with red threads going everywhere.
Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, shit. Like, I'm trying to like put together all of this like open source intel, and like guys writing me on WhatsApp and generals sending me emails. And then all of a sudden I start getting emails and then calls from this guy. He's like, my name's Dave. I'm like, okay. I'm like, Dave, where are you, man? He's like, I'm in Kabul. I'm like, what do you mean you're in Kabul? He's like, I live here. I'm like, what is going on? What do you mean you live in Kabul? He's like, yeah, I've lived here for years. And he was a former member of, I think, JTF back in the day. So like, he has a shop there. He just lives there. And I was like, what? He's like, what do you need? I'm like, I don't know. Every time a guy asks what I need, I'm like, I don't really know, man. This is like way above my pay grade. They're like, well, you're the guy on the ground. I'm like, well, We need like this, that, and the other. Essentially, we just need like eyes on the ground. He's like, got it. I'll be that guy. So then everybody kind of goes off in their own direction. And then that's when global affairs gets involved. And we're like, okay, finally, somebody's lit up. We've been collecting names on a list. Like Wendy has this incredible list, and Russ is compiling it. And we're reaching out to every member of the forces essentially with like this big outreach campaign. I did a Facebook post that blew up. It is my best Facebook post ever. I did a video. I'm like, this is where Canadians need to shine. We need your help right now. We need to get our brothers and sisters out of Afghanistan who serve with us. Please help. This is where you go, right? And then just emails just came in like, oh shit, I can't handle all this. So it's, guys that have been deployed that had interpreters are like, I need to get my job. I've been trying for, and then we realized the scope of this problem is huge. There's hundreds, if not thousands of interpreters that had a relationship with us over like what we were there 15 years or 10 years plus. It's the scope was way too big for us to handle. The Canadian Forces got involved. They were helping kind of vet those lists. But as you know, whenever you make a list, like you got to send it back for like 5 different, and then there's something missing on the list, and it's just a disaster. So we're like, we have the like one list that's like the source of truth, but then that would get corrupted, and so it was just a wacky back and forth. And then once the government of was the Global Affairs Canada got involved, then the wheels fell off because they
do you know? Sorry to interrupt. Like roughly, where are we in the time frame when
we're like in June? We're like June, getting close to like.
It's the summer now.
The stress really started to like ramp up. Obviously, like everything collapsed in August. So the period from June to August was cuckoo bananas. The amount of back and forth. And so you're trying to coordinate with, and don't forget, we're in COVID. So nobody's in an office. So there's nobody going in to be like, hey, what the fuck is going on? Like we need to get in a room together. It's like all Zoom rooms and I don't know the faces of anybody. So it's all kind of nebulous. So everything's like, there's like people doing the same thing over and over and over again. Who's in charge? Nobody knows. The operational control essentially went to GAF, which didn't make any sense because they're not an operational department. They're a bunch of bureaucrats that like write policy on like trade and foreign relations. They don't know anything about tactical shit on the ground with trying to exfil interpreters. That's not their job. They don't know. That's not the Americans. They know that shit. They know who to talk. We have zero capacity. When I talk about zero capacity, if you're stuck somewhere, good luck, man. Like Canada's not coming to save you. So we don't know what to do, and they're sending us these orders, right? So one of the craziest days that I had during this entire, like apart from the actual fall of Kabul, they send out this order. They go, okay, we know everybody that's on this list. They're all getting an email with the orders in priority of what they need to do in order to make their claim to get their ass on the plane because we've got flights like ripping out in like a month. We're like, okay, finally, awesome.
By they you mean the folks who are needing an evac and
exactly. So that includes them and their family and like Afghanistan. It's hard, man, because they don't have papers. It's a third world country, so they don't have access to the amenities that we do, like sometimes electricity, the internet, like a printer.
It creates massive deltas of how do we get information to people who may not even have running water or electricity or the means to receive data information. How do we communicate with them? It creates a whole host of logistical and sort of pragmatic challenges on the ground that you're still dealing with at a boots on the ground grassroots level. Amazing. Sorry, I'm just trying to help everybody.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
I'm repainting it for myself here as well.
When you send an email to any one of us, and there's a few like line items, and typically if you're dealing with the government, they might send a PDF file, right? I have trouble opening a PDF file on my Mac from the government. How do you think an Afghan is going to respond to these PDF files that likely won't open on their phone? Because that's really all they have. Meanwhile, the Taliban are cutting intermittently the internet. They're cutting the electricity intermittently. They don't have what we have, but they sent this email that required them to print like this 15-page form. They had to fill it out by hand. scan it, send it back to the freaking government. And so, dude, I saw pictures, I wish I still had them, of these lineups, because there's like one guy in town. Like, we're talking Kabul, Kandahar, some of the little outlying cities, like they had like one, like the equivalent of like a Kinko's, right? Like it was like Haji Ramatullah, right? Who just had that and like a print lined up for hundreds of meters. Like all these, and so it's like, oh, that creates a great scenario. The Taliban just needs to go, oh, what are you guys all lined up here for? Oh, you're trying to get your paperwork done? Why are you trying to get your paperwork done? Right? Like
what for?
It just, oh, we're just trying to get a job. Yeah. Like, no. So it was just pure chaos. And they gave a timeline, like it has to be done. It was something ridiculous. Like they gave it, they sent the email on like a Monday or Tuesday. And it was like by Thursday or Friday, it has to be done and completely submitted with like everything properly filled out for us to consider your application. Well, what do you think that does to an Afghan who's desperate to leave with his family? Like if we were desperate to leave with our family, thinking that everybody's going to get murdered or worse, what would you do? If you'd freak the fuck out? You'd be like, all right, well, I got to get this one piece of paperwork done. My life depends on it. So they freaked out, obviously. So I spent 24 hours working on my entire like interpreter's family's paperwork. I was like, I got you, bro. Like whenever you can, get on WhatsApp. I'm working on it as we speak. I didn't sleep, man. Because you got big ass families, man. Because it was him, his dad, his mom, all his sisters, all his brothers. And then, like he speaks English pretty well, but there's always some kind of break at some point. And then he's like, oh, did you get my sister? I was like, yeah, I got your sister. He's like, no, this sister. I'm like, you said you only had one sister. He's like, no, I have two sisters. I'm like, he's like, yeah, but it was from another marriage. Or I was like, oh my God. I was like, dude, you gotta be clear. Like I get it all in one email. Like these names all look the same. So we banged out all that paperwork and we were just like knife handing like the government to be like, you can't expect this to be the official process. And then they backed off and then they said, oh, it's okay. It's okay. It was actually mentioned in national news how ridiculous it was because that was the first major bungle and it destroyed the trust between the Canadian government and the Afghans that were trying to get out. Because as soon as they saw like, oh, well, like if they say, well, this thing, and then they don't really mean it, then how do we know whatever they send is legit from now on? And that led us to, this is the big explosive thing, man. So my interpreter's family got golden visas. And by what I mean golden visas, I mean they got official visas from the government of Canada, signed, sealed, and delivered by the government legitimately from their email address saying, congratulations, this is your visa. This is your ticket out of Afghanistan. This is official documentation that says you are Canadian. I've never seen that before in my life. This grants you the privilege of being Canadian. It was like automatic citizenship. And I said, what the hell is this? Like, is this a scam? Nope. Came from the official Canadian email address. I still have those emails. I couldn't believe it. So I said, oh my God, get your ass on a plane immediately. You're like me, come home. No, they couldn't. Because something, and this is where I don't have the investigative skills to go a little deeper on this, but something is rotten in the state of Denmark, and in this case, Canada, that stinks way higher than some top that we have here politically. Something was going on with this whole Afghan withdrawal that I don't have the capacity to investigate, but it didn't take much to realize something fishy was going on here. And I just can't put my finger on it. And unfortunately, there hasn't been much investigation into this. And this isn't like conspiratorial stuff. This is just clear as mud. Like, why are you sending? And they weren't the only family. There's a whole bunch that got these emails with official documentation saying that they're Canadian, get their ass over here, but they weren't allowed to come. And for whatever reason, Afghans were blocked by whoever it was from coming to Canada. But we have this wave of migration with people that had no connection to Canada whatsoever. So something weird went on there. And there's a whole bunch of other corruption that was going on behind the scenes, which I wasn't aware of. But that all led essentially to the fall of Kabul. So I guess that was one big chunk there that we're kind of like in July at this point before the actual fall.
So I'll just jump in real quick. So for those who are listening, Um, I would urge that you go online and read a little bit about what Dave is talking about with the connection of the MND at the time, Sajan, and the mysterious, we'll call it, link to Afghan Sikhs receiving priority for evacuation. So all the insane stuff that Dave is talking about doing, spooling all this up in the background, you know what I mean? Dealing with these NGOs, the Americans, the Europeans, like Canada's sort of lack of ability to coherently facilitate all this stuff, which, you know what I mean, allowed him and other brave, bold people to step in and get things done. While that was going on, the senior level of the federal leadership of Canada was doing some shady stuff in the background that Dave just spoke about. And I would urge anyone who has any interest in this to go and check it out for yourself. I'm not trying to, you know what I mean, paint a picture here, but take a look at what he's talking about and maybe come to your own conclusions, because it is sort of baffling what went on and how there's been zero consequences or any like I'm talking, not even people didn't, not only did people not lose their jobs, but nobody went to jail. And it's kind of mind bending to think of how this all went on in sort of broad daylight in the middle of this pandemonium, when the folks that Dave is talking about needing this egress, this exfil as badly as they did, sort of being ignored and sort of left to their own devices to battle this sort of unnecessary admin. But man, really interesting part of the story. I would urge people to go and do a little bit of digging, come up with your own, you know what I mean, ideas of what went on there, and maybe leave a comment in the section if you come up with something. But we'll get back to you now. So it's now July or it's now July 2021. Like, this is about to go, for lack of a better term, full retard here with the US withdrawal. And exactly. Your interpreter and many members of his family have received this documentation, but they're still having hurdles somehow to move forward. What happens now?
Yeah. So during this whole process now, because everybody's running around with their hair on fire, I'm on the news here in Canada every week, sometimes 2-3 times a day, in English and French, on all the major news broadcasts. I'm in the paper. I was featured in the New York Times. The Americans started like picking up on this story because they were having similar problems too. How could they screw this up so badly? So as I'm doing that, I'm still doing the stuff behind the scenes. And I've taken on the role as the patho, if you want to call it, for our little organization, to get the word out. And now it's just the amount of intake from Afghans is really picking up. And then it gets harder to suss out the legitimate ones from the ones that aren't. So as we're trying to, put that together, the government starts coming out with policy. But as you know, they call an election, right? And we're saying, no, please don't. Like, there's no need for you to call an election right now. This is one of the largest geopolitical disasters that is slow walking like to your door. Just push it off, man. Like, just you make a common sense move here, because the way I see it, you can't ever expect us to go into another war zone not on our soil and ask for help from an ally after what we did. How are you going to expect to get somebody to say, yeah, I'll work with the Canadians, when you're like, yeah, well, after we're gone, like, you're just going to die because the country's just going to fall back to where it was. And we don't care that you actually wore the uniform. So that was the way I looked at it. We had a moral responsibility to help these guys get out. The government didn't see it that way. And so we're waiting for these big announcements, right? And you can look at, the timeline here online. We're expecting this big announcement from Minister Mendocino about, okay, this is our plan. This is how many people we're going to get out. This is, flight 1, flight 2, he comes out with this bonkers statement that relates to the LGBTQ community in Afghanistan and women's rights. And we went, what? No, dude, like, what are you talking about? Okay, maybe some of them are LGBTQ, but this isn't the play here. The play is the people that work with us, who do include women and children, need to get out. That's it. What are you talking about? It was like I lived in bizarro world. I was watching it live and freaking out. I'm like, this is the response from the government? Are you serious? And he knew what was going on. He was the GAC minister at the time. So that being said, that's when, like I mentioned to you before we went live here, like that's when I became radicalized. Like that was my moment. I was like, oh, I still had with, my military experience, being a veteran, all that stuff. I still had this little bit of me that still believed that our government was virtuous and had some amount of dignity and morality left in it. I realized then, no, there isn't any. It doesn't exist. So now what? I guess it's just us. Like we can't rely on them. I totally gave up on them. That they were now completely useless. So now we're getting really close to August. My daughter's birthday was August 16th, is August 16th. It was her second birthday party. And we're getting these insane orders from Global Affairs to the tune of, okay, we're emailing everybody, all the Afghans on this list. We've got an exfil plan, but we got to get them into HKIA, Hamid Karzai International Airport in Kabul. We don't really have anybody on the ground because our entire diplomatic corps just pieced out. The literal ambassador got on a plane, like the first guy, like, like no man left behind. That doesn't apply for them. It's me, and my staff. Let's go get out of here. So the first flights that came home from Canada were not Afghan nationals or Afghan interpreters. It was staff from Canada. It was so embarrassing.
The people that could have helped facilitate this entire process if they were still there.
The British ambassador, he understood the play. He knew what he had to do. He was there like rubber stamping himself while the Taliban's like, like along. He's like, no. He's like, I'm a Brit. He probably had like a freaking tie on with like his like, cane and like a bowler hat on. Like he's like, no, fully empire, like typical Brit. Canadians, gone. First sign of danger, gone. So there was nobody for these Afghans to go and talk to, essentially, because that was the point of the foreign ministry, essentially, or the global affairs, is to be that last line of, yeah, this place sucks. We've been here fighting a war forever, but you know what? We still want to get you out. But no, the message was, you're on your own. So they sent, I remember this so well. They sent this crazy email, and I believe it went out by WhatsApp as well. Shit, I'm sorry. I haven't turned that setting off. I'm giving thumbs up on your broadcast.
All good.
To report to this gas station, right? And bring a red anything, handkerchief, piece of clothing, to signify to your transport that you are a Canadian interpreter to get you on the bus to drive you to the airport. Well, tactically, that makes absolutely no sense. You're identifying everybody that's an interpreter, that's an enemy of the Taliban. So you got all these Afghans that are desperate, like, yeah, whatever. If that's what they say, that's what we'll do. But obviously, the plans are falling apart within hours of them being created because there's nobody on the ground that has any tactical experience. Like, we don't have the military on the ground. They sent Kansoff, but they weren't allowed to leave the wire. So who do you have coordinating? Essentially nobody. So it's me on WhatsApp, and I have an interpreter who's not Abdul, is another guy. He's like, sir, I'm here. He's taking pictures. He's like, I'm at the gas station. Where is everybody? I'm like, dude, get the hell away from there. Like, now. Do not stay there. He's like, why? I'm like, dude, you guys are all targets. Get out of there. He's like, okay, where do I go next? I'm like, somewhere safe. I don't know where that is, but get the fuck away from there. And then they're like, okay, no. Next exfil spot is this hotel that's close to the airport. Bring your handkerchiefs. And we're like, stop telling them to bring a goddamn handkerchief. If you can't figure this out, don't tell them to go anywhere and congregate, because obviously this is going to be intercepted. These are not secure comms. I don't know who's in this WhatsApp group. There's likely some freaking TB guy in here. I don't know. And then
TB Taliban.
Yeah, Taliban. Yeah, exactly. Like we have this WhatsApp group, and who knows who's in it, right? It's just folks that we think are on our side, but they could be on our side, but also taking a cut from the Taliban if they get enough money. Like, that's the way it goes down over there. And since we have no eyes and ears on the ground, the only guy we have is Canadian Dave. That guy, honestly, he needs the Order of Canada, because that guy did so much for us because he freely roamed. And he's been there so long, he is not a target.
Sorry,
So
just to
Canadian Dave.
clarify, Canadian Dave is his handle, or how do people find this
No, well,
gentleman?
his name's Dave. His name's Dave. He's been in all the like. He was just captured not too long ago because he went back to Kabul, and they're like, "Oh no, like former Canadian Armed Forces member captured by the Taliban." And I'm like, "Nah, he's fine." They're just they're just having a conversation.
This guy's
And
a
yeah, he's fine.
gladiator over there fixing
Yeah,
things
he's
by
fine.
himself. Yeah.
He's like, it's just he lives there, so he understands how that place works. I don't know how it works like that, but he was able to broker some ability to get people in and out, and he was able to travel in and out of the gate. So he was the only guy that we could really trust with any kind of information to get interpreters in and out of the gate. And so now we're getting closer and closer to that last day where things really went sideways. We had the suicide attack, right, that killed 13 American soldiers. We were getting live intel that get the hell away from the ditches around the airport. We know, and this is the crazy thing. Why am I getting this intel? I have no security clearance. How am I getting it? Why am I getting it? Is it massive, massive failure of the entire system that, civilian Dave here is getting like live essay on WhatsApp that's faster than what's going on at CAF or Global Affairs. And we know that there's an attack imminent. It's like, oh shit. So we're texting I'm like, guys, get the fuck away from the airport right now. And so Abdul, he wasn't there because he actually got a flight out with the British, believe it or not. Him and his immediate family. He's like, hey, Mr. Dave, like, do I go? I'm like, is the plane spooled up? He's like, yeah, they said be here in like 3 hours. We're leaving. I was like, go now. He's like, but I want to go to Canada. I'm like, I don't care, man. Get your family safe. So he got to the UK and they were legit gone. Like, that's it. Canada, like you still would have been there and probably likely worse. I had one more interpreter that I worked with. He's the last guy on the ground. His story is a movie, by the way. If we can ever get him, he's in Ottawa right now. Incredible story. I don't know how he survived, but he just didn't give up. So he's feeding real-time data, pictures. Like he was sending pictures live of like the suicide attack. He was freaking there, man. It was a nightmare. It was a fucking nightmare. And like, that was just like the most gut wrenching thing. Cause we knew this was going to happen. We all knew this was going to happen. You can't run this operation the way you're doing it and not expect something horrific to happen. I know the Americans have done their investigation at the congressional level. Canada hasn't done anything. We haven't had a single hearing on any of this stuff. And it's a shame, man. And that eventually led to, this is another crazy story. I've got a buddy. He used to be a Globemaster pilot. He's texting me on Signal. He's like, bro, I'm in Kabul. I'm like, oh, what the fuck? Like, what do you mean you're in Kabul? We're in a group chat, right? He's like, I'm in Kabul. Like, oh, what the fuck? He's like, dude, I'm on the tarmac. I got people in the back. I have no idea who I'm flying out of here. There's nobody in the towers. And there's fucking air traffic everywhere. I'm flying blind. Wish me luck. I was like, what the fuck? It's like, why are you telling me? He's like, I don't know who else to talk to, dude.
Oh my God.
I don't have any comms. I'm just here. I'm assuming everybody in my plane is fucking legit, not going to blow it up. I'm taking off. I'm wheels up.
So this is a Canadian Air Force pilot and a Canadian Air Force plane.
Yes, we had the two or three Globemasters show up. Those are the C-13s. I can't remember the terminology anymore.
Yeah, I think so.
Anyway, so yeah, he landed, and that was our response, right? The Americans essentially had like an air bridge at one point. Like they were really getting guys out. We, I believe, had 2 or 3 flights, and that was it. There was nobody else. So we got a handful of people out. And
so the time frame now with this latest one of this pilot messaging you would be like we're fully into August,
like
almost September.
No, we're in August. We're in August, man. It's like
it's those
Afghans holding on to the Afghans holding on to the landing gear falling off the plane.
That's what everybody was seeing back here. I was on ranges every day for 12 plus hours a day, and some of our staff had to take off in the middle of it for obvious reasons. So I was not tracking any of this at all. And I just kind of want to bring it back to where we started there, where most people watching this have no idea outside of the videos of the people hanging on to the fuselage or the landing gear or the crazy stuff that people were like, oh my God, I'll risk falling off this plane or getting crushed by the hydraulic gear to get out of this place. Meanwhile, you're getting texts from pilots as people are filtering into this plane coming from who knows where. And like, luckily this pilot has the balls and stoicism to say, okay, well, if they make it on this plane, like I'm helping them get out of here kind of thing. So kudos to that guy. And we could do, holy cow, it's already been 40 minutes. And I feel like we could do another 3 or 4 based on just the side quests of the other people that you're talking about here, because
100%.
And again, like, this is easily one of the coolest and most interesting stories of anyone's told me that I've had the pleasure of listening to, whether it was a currently serving person, you know what I mean, telling me their war story from whatever, a veteran or what, but like, this is literally just a grassroots movement of people who were sort of paying attention and not being selfish in a time when literally like the world kind of fell apart. And like you mentioned bizarro world, and that's where we were for the better part of 2 years, but you still had the focus and the mindset and the sort of coherent, pragmatic planning ability to sort of put this in motion, even though you were kind of flying by the seat of your pants. But that's what makes this story so good, in my opinion, is that you left as a jack, as a master corporal.
No, I retired as an LT. I commissioned.
That's right.
I commissioned
apologies.
from the ranks. I was a senior NCO, and then I commissioned from the ranks.
My apologies. I did know that, but that's
it's fine. My rank no longer holds any weight outside of Canada, anyways. So it's really only a Canadian thing. Oh, would you leave us LT? And then you get that like, LT, huh? It's like, but I was in as a sergeant.
yeah, exactly. And if I had said, oh, a retired sergeant or master corporal had pulled this off, a lot of people that are kind of in the know would say, yeah, that checks out. Canada's got some really switched on junior and senior NCOs. If you say you did it as a lieutenant, people are like, yikes. Like, how is this?
Yeah.
How is this possible? As a direct entry
though,
guy, I can speak for that.
In all honesty, a lot like Wendy Long deserves some formal recognition with one of the highest levels of civilian like accomplishment. I can't see how she doesn't, like that, like her effort, and she continued up until very recently, right? Like there's been spin-offs from her organization that have helped so many more Afghans, man. It's crazy, because the other story is after the fact, there was nothing set up for these Afghans, man. They just showed up. There was no plan. When I talk about no plan, there's no plan. They're just bringing them over here, putting them in a hotel and being like, all right, well, I guess we'll figure it out. There was no idea of what to do with them. And her organization was a godsend, man, because as small as they were able to do a lot of really good work. So she deserves the highest recognition for this, because she was really the one at the highest level, kind of doing all of that, like politicking and making sure things got done properly, because she had all the information. She was the one that everybody had to go to access the list and to make sure people were vetted. And yeah, it was really thanks to her, because if it wasn't for her, this wouldn't have gone off the ground, because I wouldn't have found her and we wouldn't have been able to create like a smaller organization that had an impact. Because the little thing that I knew was like, I could do a little bit of social media. She didn't do this. She couldn't do the social media reach. So we complemented each other well. So big shout out to Wendy for getting this up off the ground and helping so many Afghans out of Afghanistan, because it was really her effort that made that happen.
That's amazing, dude. Amazing. This lady, I've never met her. I don't think I've spoken to her, but yeah, kudos to her. Kudos to you. Such a cool story. I love listening to it. Selfishly, I think I did this maybe just for me. Hopefully other people get a kick out of it too. Are you able to share without any unnecessary or security breaching detail how Abdul and his family are doing now? Like, I don't need to know where they are. That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Well, here, how are they doing?
So here's the crazy thing, man. So he ended up in the UK, and I haven't checked in for a while. I'll be honest. That's on me. I should do more check-ins. Last time I talked to him, he was trying to get himself and his immediate family over to Canada, because his dad, his mom, all his brothers, sisters, they all landed in Ontario. We broke bread together. It was surreal, man. I brought my son. Like, it was emotional, man. It was emotional. And we had an Afghan dinner. Like, it was amazing. And I was like, man, I can't believe, like, I never met any of these people before in my life, right? So it was just really cool to see that, well, you know, the mission at the meta level was a complete and utter disaster. But on the personal level, there was his family that I could see and touch and hug and eat a meal with, that is now able to like start new and fresh here in Canada. And then same with our other interpreter. You know, he got to start new in Ottawa and with his family. And so like they are the Canadian dream, man. Like they're just grinding, working their asses off, going to school. It's just cool to see, man. And like that was no longer a possibility in Afghanistan. And Abdul's family, man, I talk about side quests. They were stuck in Pakistan for 2 years illegally. That was a freaking nightmare, man. That was bad because
Yikes.
they had to essentially stay inside for almost 2 years. They had to go for like small little things. They had some friends that got them stuff to bring to the, because if the police found them, they were immediately deported back to Afghanistan, and that was just a death sentence, right? So these Afghans, man, the ones that made it over here, the ones that were interpreters' families, they all have a story. They all have an incredible story. So yeah, we talk about side quests and like just like movie ready stories. These guys have movie ready stories. It's just nobody's telling them, and that's the unfortunate thing here about Canada. And I think this whole ordeal, it's best that it's kept like kind of swept under the rug, because it's an embarrassment, because of the lack of, I guess, moral impetus to do something was just not there from a national level. It was very selfish in terms of what the priority was. It was elections, me, my party. You know, it wasn't, hey, we got to do something that's good for humanity here. And I think that's what the unfortunate reality was. And so that's why when you have me on, man, I love telling this story. Nobody, I've told it on my podcast, but it doesn't really have the reach, right? So yeah, this is great. I really appreciate coming on the show and sharing it.
Man, thank you for being here. Thank you for telling that story. I hope that a movie does get made out of it, or some variation of something gets made out of this, just because it's such an awesome story of perseverance and figuring it out and grassroots and boots on the ground. And I just love it, man. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for telling your story. Where can people find you? You know what I mean? To learn more about you or what you're doing, please share as we kind of wrap this up here.
Well, first of all, I just want to say, if anybody's going to play me in a movie, I want it to be Gerard Butler. Just throwing that out there. Gerard, buddy. Okay. Give me a call. Where can people reach out to me? Well, if you go to hardtokill.org, that's where you can find the podcast, the Hard to Kill podcast. If you're interested in joining our fitness community based on rebuilding the warrior after a long career, that's there as well. It's Veterans Getting Fit AF. And I've also got my Substack as well. It's all at hardtokill.org. So you can read stuff, you can listen to stuff, and you can do stuff. That's the point of this whole endeavor. And feel free to reach out to me and ask any questions you want, man. It's what I do now. I love doing it.
I love it. Again, man, thank you for being here. Folks, please reach out, send him a note, send him anything, send him a question. Just try to get involved whatever level you can. And thanks again, dude. This has been real fun. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to listen to that story. I'll probably do it again.
This is awesome, man. I'm glad I got to pop your podcast cherry, man. This is a good conversation, man. You're gonna have a good career. This is good. This is a good flow. I love it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. It's been real.